All right. So Teresa Ting, is that did I
That's
say that
correct. Teresa Ting. Yep.
right? So Teresa, you're an Asian American. You were born in New York City,
Yes, I was born and raised in Queens, Elmhurst, Queens.
Elmhurst, and there's a big Asian community out in Elmhurst, right? Or am I thinking more Flushing?
Yeah, actually, there's like different communities. Like we have a lot of Koreans. We have, if you're going towards Woodside a little more, there's like all your Thai community.
Yeah,
So I would say Flushing is more dense for Chinese.
for Chinese. Okay. I lived in Chinatown for a hot minute when I moved back to New York in 2013 for only like 3 months until I ended up buying, my place.
Uh-huh.
But I lived in Confucius Towers.
Oh,
And so it was super cool because I was literally like the only non-Asian in the building other than the doorman.
oh, wow.
Really. And so I really kind of felt like I took it to the next level because I'd, of course, been to Chinatown many times, but I'd always avoided the area because it's crowded, it's just hectic.
Mhm.
And, unless you're going for a purpose, I really felt no reason to
And
go
it's
there.
very touristy, so yeah.
It is the Chinatown in New York, by the way, not the
Yes.
one in Flushing. And so, but the experience that I had, because I had just moved from LA, I just moved from living abroad. This is my second time back in New York. I was like, wow, this is perfect because I was launching my travel show and it felt so much like being in an alien culture, but also in the United States as well. And I learned so much. And I was like, this is why I love New York. And we were just talking about it, it's so diverse. So tell me about your experience. You were born in the US. Do you speak, what's your background? Are you Chinese?
Yep, I am Chinese. I was born here. I'm fluent in Mandarin.
Okay.
My dad is from Malaysia and my mom is from Taiwan.
Okay. All right, cool. And you were telling me you're an actress and a martial artist. Like, I should disclose, we met through a friend of mine who is an actress and model as well, but she is from Austria, Asian
Yep.
from, yeah, Austria. But you guys kind of all find each other, right? And
No, it's funny because she's actually Taiwanese, but she's from Austria.
right,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah,
Which I find just wonderful. I think that's
yeah.
it's another great thing about New York is that all these different people with these different backgrounds. Which, getting to the subject at hand, is why I was so disturbed to see that in the city that I love, in a city that, because I'm from the South originally, that I literally almost felt like I stopped seeing color after like a month here. I
Mm.
just stopped. It's just such a sea of people. You can never really stereotype or judge anyone. And I just thought that was a magical gift in New York. So my heart completely was just breaking when I saw some of the videos of what's happening here in New York with the attacks on Asians here, and I guess because of COVID. So tell me what you're doing. It's called Mainstreet Patrol, and what inspired you to do this?
Sure. So Mainstreet Patrol started in February
Okay.
after we learned of the woman who is the Chinese woman who was brutally shoved to the sidewalk. She needed stitches on her forehead after. And they found the attacker, I think, a day later, but he was released without bail within 24 hours because it was not considered a hate crime. So when I saw that video, it just really hit close to home because Flushing was literally like my second home, and I still frequent there all the time. My work is there, and my parents always used to frequent there. Not so much anymore, but just seeing that video really broke my heart because I was like, that literally could have been my mother. Like if it was the wrong place, wrong time, that could have been my mom. And I just felt so much anger and rage, which I'm sure a lot of people have felt when they saw that. It's just, and you see like the people that were just standing around and not doing anything about it, and it just really breaks your heart when you see that. So I was just greatly disturbed and I was very angry, and I just knew I had to do something about it. Like I didn't know exactly what in the moment, but I was just like, this feeling, this rage inside of me needs to come out in some form where I can do something positive to help the community. So I remember I posted on my social media, like, and a lot of people reached out to me, like my friends, people I haven't spoken to in years, like people from high school, middle school. They like sent me messages. They were like, I can't believe this happened. I feel you. I hope you're okay. So it was just really nice to get that support. And people were like, hey, just let me know when you're doing this thing, and I'll come on down. And so I gave it a few days, and I was like, maybe I should try to do like a patrol thing, because I heard in California they had patrol groups, because I think there were a lot more crimes at that point that were highlighted in the media. So I was like, I haven't really heard of any patrol groups like here in New York. So, I'm just gonna gather some friends and we'll walk around and just scout out some locations and just make sure like things don't go by like unreported, unnoticed. And there's no harm in that, right? So I got like a couple of friends. The first week was literally only like 5 people, and that was already amazing because I didn't expect anyone to come. And actually that week, a lot of my friends were like out of town. So I was like, oh man, am I doing this alone? And what do I do? Because, you're like, you feel more comfortable when you have a friend with you, but then you think of like the greater message and the greater mission, and you're like, let me just put my own ego aside, and this is for the community. And so I just stuck with it. And I had people from like high school that I actually never really even hung out with during high school show up, and someone I met on set for something else show up. And it was just really cool. And this random guy from Connecticut who saw someone repost it from someone else showed up, And so when I saw that, I felt this just incredible energy within me, like, oh my gosh, I can't believe these people all got together to do this thing with me, this experimental thing with me. So somehow I just knew I had to keep the momentum going, because I was inspired by that. I was inspired by the people who just were like, hey, I'm down to do this just for the greater good. I was just so inspired. And so, we just kept the momentum going. We got more resources. We discovered an app called Zello, and it's actually like a walkie-talkie app. So, we started working out some logistics within our team members. We had Zoom meetings. And so now we have basically patrol groups. We divide them into like 2 to 3 people per group. We have a whole map that's drawn out, and it's color coded. We have streets and everything and routes that we pick. So right now we do mostly commercial areas in downtown Flushing, just because it's higher traffic and there's more chances of incidents happening. So we have like these color coded routes drawn out, and we basically have to wear an earpiece in the whole time for the whole patrol. And we use the Zello app. Most likely me as a dispatcher, I will check in with every single group that's color coded every 30 minutes, just to make sure they're on their location. If they see anything weird or suspicious, they have to Zello over to us. And the great thing about Zello is they actually save all of the audio transactions in between us. So, if you need to be like, oh, you said something about this guy, like you check the timestamp or what the recording was, you can look back at it. So that's really great with this app. And then, we have a group chat on Signal. And now we have an application, like a volunteer application. So, we don't only offer roles for patrollers. We also have a lot of things like social media, administration, content, just all kinds of stuff. So, if you want to like help out or join the group, you don't have to be like, oh, I'm not comfortable patrolling, because sure, like not everyone's comfortable with that. That's fine. But we have like all sorts of roles for anyone, any ethnicity. You do have to be at least 18 to patrol, just, for liability reasons. And we also incorporate ihollaback.org, which is this really great site that offers free bystander intervention training programs for anyone. So all you have to do is like go on their site. They have a list of calendar and dates for certain topics. Sometimes it's like street harassment. Sometimes it's like, I know they did one like last Monday. It was on like the anti-Asian and xenophobia. How do you intervene that? So those are all like super great resources. And that's also part of the reason why I wanted to start this group, was because I knew about the bystander effect. It's just too common. And, actually I was a psychology major at NYU. So we were always taught about like the bystander effect and like what are you supposed to do if you are a victim in a certain situation. So we just want to make sure that we can have these resources more accessible to the public, because I feel like all these things are really happening without people like intervening because people don't know what to do. They're worried about their safety. They're scared they're gonna cause more to the assault. They just don't, there's too much responsibility involved. So people don't know how to go about it. But I feel like if we're all educated and if we just continue just being alert and thinking about these things all the time, I think we can all be way better bystanders. So, we don't need to have patrol groups per se in the future. It'll just be like anyone who's passing through here or Manhattan or anywhere or a different country, what to do. So that's my bigger vision for Mainstreet Patrol, is just educating the public. And I think this should eventually be implemented in schooling, because I think kids need to have this kind of information, especially since they're so young, and a lot of bullying start in school, right? So I think, if this is implemented at an early age every single year, we will be prepared when things actually happen.
Yeah,
So
that's really what this is. This is really bullying, because a lot of the victims have been elderly people, and a lot of the perpetrators have been young,
yeah,
able-bodied people, which I think really adds to the rage of people when you see it, because you're like, how dare you pick on someone like that?
right,
And so xenophobia is only part of it. The fact that it's happening in New York tells you that it can happen anywhere.
exactly.
And they're taking advantage of a situation and basically bullying people. So you're right, it does start in school, and if we can stop it, I think and I love the idea that you're doing, which is teaching people the bystander, because I think we all, I know I kind of grew up these fantasies of like, if I see something, I'm gonna intervene, I'm gonna be the hero. And then the reality is that you freeze. I think the idea that so that we're trained and we know what to do really helps, and it's something I'm really interested in learning as well. So when you guys go out on patrol, are you just kind of keeping an eye on things, or are you actually escorting elderly people to their homes or anything like that? What do you guys do when you're on patrol?
Got it. So we currently just are paying attention to the environment, seeing suspicious people, especially people who are not wearing masks. Maybe they're
Yeah,
intoxicated, they're high, something is off. If you see someone just kind of like that walking down or like screaming at someone,
yeah,
you definitely want to start documenting that at a safe distance.
yeah.
And basically we want to notice things like the precursor to attacks or anything like that, because you don't want to wait until, obviously if you see a commotion, then you should try to intervene in the safest way possible, but we're trying to look for precursors and just keep track of that. So we do have like incident reports, and we have to make a log every single time we finish our patrols.
So we can't just rely on the police. They're there to react. There's also a lot of mental health issues. Obviously, a lot of people under a lot of stress, but that's not an excuse. Because the one thing that I noticed, and this is something I've always noticed living in New York City, um, someone quote unquote mentally ill or not all there on a subway or wherever never ever picked on the baddest dude, the biggest baddest dude. They never did. They always
Right.
picked on a vulnerable person.
Mhm.
And I'm like, well, they may not be thinking straight, but they're thinking straight enough for survival. And so I always thought of that. And I was like, no one ever really picks on me, but they pick on the little old lady over here. And that angers me. And so I have intervened in those regards. And I think that's what's happening now. Now, Asian culture in particular, I think has kind of been stereotyped with kind of get along, don't make noise, just do your own thing. And that's kind of the immigrant story as well. But in particular, Asian Americans, I think, have, the model citizens, the model immigrants, if you will, and in particular, Asian women. So you get like a double thing going on, because I've had girlfriends who are like telling me their day-to-day life of traveling or walking through New York, and I'm just horrified. I'm like, what you guys have to go through. But do you see that changing? Do you see like this new generation kind of like, I guess, we kind of want to like keep the fact that this is such a beautiful culture. Because one of the things I enjoyed when I was in Chinatown is just the sweetness of the grandmas and of the kids and of the families. And I was like, this is just such a sweet family oriented culture. And it warmed my heart. It reminded me of when I moved to New York and I worked in the Latin market, similar situation. And for some reason, it really moved me. And I don't want to lose that. But at the same time, you don't want to see people become victims. So, how do you strike that balance? And I guess that's what you guys are doing as the new generation is trying to say, hey, we're not your punching bags. We're humans and we're going to fight back.
Right. Well, I think, with, I guess, the older generation, mostly I would say they're immigrants. And I would say my generation are more likely to be first generation Asian Americans. Well, I think because we are born here, we have more of that connection to like, this is where I'm from. This is where I'm born. So of course I have a right. I have the right of whoever is born here, So like, I definitely think this generation is making waves because of that change from being immigrants to being like a first generation, and also having to set that for our next generation. So we have that pressure to not only serve this generation, but for the next. And I think for sure, like, we are doing something better. And, because the elders are, maybe they have language barriers, or, they can't speak up for themselves, or they, like, let's say they encounter a hate crime, or like someone saying some racial slurs to them, but they don't understand. So it's hard for them to actually comprehend what's happening and then actually make a report for that. So I feel like as our generation, we're kind of like the ears and the eyes and the mouth for them. So we have to speak up for them, and we have to speak up for ourselves, for our culture, for our community. And I definitely think this generation, we're giving a damn about it, and we can do something. So
yeah, and I think you're bridging the gap between people who don't, maybe who do have a language barrier and are reluctant to report such things for whatever reason. One of the things that I thought was inspiring about your story was, in all of this negativity, and you want to go out and kick this guy's butt, and I understand that because you are also a martial artist, I should point out. So you probably could. That's why he doesn't mess with you. I wish he would. I wish somebody would, so you could take him out. But is that you turn that negative into something positive, and we're surprised by the power of people and how many way more good people there are than bad people. And let's face it, the people that are doing this are damaged. They're damaged. Are they beyond redemption? I have no idea. They each have a story.
mm-hmm.
They're bullies, and they're picking on older, elderly people. And for some reason, they're targeting Asian Americans or Asians because they think COVID is caused by them or something, or something is going on there.
Or it could be like, I'm using COVID as an excuse for my hatred for these people.
100%. Yeah. Or just expressing hatred.
Yeah.
Some people are just bad, period. And so at the end of the day, I'm like, well, pick on me, pick on me. It's like a guy who beats his wife. It's like a guy beats his girlfriend. Pick on me. Pick on another guy of your size, not someone 100 pounds less. That's a crisis of cowardice. And I believe, if anything that COVID has brought out, is that we have a crisis of cowardice in this country. Mm-hmm. So there's so many people who are emailing nasty things to people from the safety of their computer. They're going out sucker punching old people. Mm-hmm. And it is disturbing, and it can make you really look at the world in a very negative manner. But then I talk to you and what you guys are doing, and you just post something on social media, and all these good people say, I'm not going to stand for it. I'm going to come out. I'm going to drive all the way from Connecticut and do something about it. And I think that's inspiring. So, I applaud what you're doing, obviously. I think it's awesome. I hope I can do a patrol. when I saw it, I was like, hey man, this would be a good opportunity for me to go to
Yeah,
Queens.
come on down.
I got to do it, man. I'm
Yeah, come
ordering
join.
myself now. Now I have to do it, right? Yeah, and I mean, if anything, where can people go so they can figure out maybe if they can't do a patrol? Because I have a lot of people who are, you know, homebound and people all over the nation, and they want to help out though. How
Sure.
can they do that?
So you can send us an email at mainstreetpatrol@gmail.com. That's the entire MAINSTREET
Right.
PATROL@gmail.com. And you can find us on Instagram also at Main Street Patrol. And we have our volunteer application there, and you can see a various list of roles. So also another thing you mentioned with the martial artist thing, we are also enthused to highlighting our local businesses in Flushing. And part of that is we're actually currently working with this local martial arts studio, and we're going to host a few free self-defense workshops, and also to promote for their business as well. So I think, obviously, I don't think violence is the solution to anything, but I think it's good to have people understand how to do self-defense when the time comes. So yeah, we're just
I
trying to
mean,
promote
that's what martial arts is about, right? You don't
that.
use it for bad; you use it for
Right,
good self-defense. Means that someone.
exactly.
And let's face it, people ask me all the time. They're like, "Oh, is it safe to travel here or there?" And I'm like, "It's safer to travel to this destination than it is to stay here in this country." People don't realize the violent nature of the United States until they leave it. And there's a lot of reasons for that. I mean, the guns, the gun culture, the movies, the glorification of violence.
Right.
It's a real thing. And then the fact that, when it happens, if you're unprepared for it, it's kind of like on us to be prepared for that. And
Right.
that doesn't mean go out and necessarily buy a gun and get armed to the teeth. You can just, be prepared for likely what may or may not happen. I have lived in New York off and on for 20 or so years. I've thankfully never had anything that I didn't have coming to me happen. And I just say that in that I've had confrontations on the street, but it was like something I could have easily avoided and was just having a bad day and kind of like could have just walked away and gotten away from that situation. And hopefully I've learned, over the years to do that. But elderly people, Asian people who are being attacked, they don't have that option. So I appreciate you guys taking up for them. And, I just want to add that I'm sure if you saw anything happening, you're like, oh, that person's not Asian, we're not going to help them out. I don't think that's going to happen, right?
No.
Helping each other.
Anyone. This is for anyone. I mean, this
Right.
is basically just we want to make everyone as accessible to these information and be aware and what to do in these situations. So
Right, exactly. And I mean, it's like, it's just so happens that Asian Americans are being targeted right now.
exactly.
People get upset when they hear things like Black Lives Matter, Asian, stop the Asian hate. Well, stop all hate, all lives matter. Yeah, we get that.
Yeah.
But what we're saying is there's a particular problem here that affects the overall thing, and we got to fix that before we can fix everything.
Right.
So, and I know that the Asian community has been a big supporter of Black Lives Matter, and Black Lives Matter has also gotten you guys' back because no one is safe till everybody's safe.
Right.
No
Exactly.
one is prosperous till everybody's prosperous, and that's just the way it is. So we all have to understand that, man. Whether we recognize it or not, that's the truth. And anyway, I appreciate what you're doing. Okay, so I think that's good. I appreciate your time, and yeah, man, I'm gonna check it out. Hopefully, I'll see you on a patrol.
Yeah.
The spring is coming, and hopefully, I'll be out there. You do it only on the weekends so far, right?
Currently, yes. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Good deal. All right, guys. Thanks a lot, Teresa. Thanks for what you're doing.
Awesome. Thank
All right.
you.
Keep up the good energy. Okay.
Yes.
All right. Talk to you later. Bye.
Bye.